offseason was the exception and certainly not the rule. Pat Shurmur assumes the head coaching duties for the New York Giants in 2018. He's expressed total support for quarterback Eli Manning while towing the company line when it comes to star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., who is equally clear he would like a new deal despite the off-the-field issues that continue to plague the star wide receiver. We say hello now from the Verizon Film Room, and we continue with Overreaction Monday, our weekly check on Odell Beckham Jr.'s status.
It's only weekly?
It's at least for good measure Monday and Friday. We'll say that. Overreaction Monday, how about this? Odell Beckham Jr. will be on this Giants roster Week 1. You covered the team, Dan. Is that an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction, even though it's not a certainty that he'll be there. But it's not an overreaction. I still think it's more likely that he's on the team than not. But the next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting leading up to the draft. The draft, I think, is a very important deadline on this. They're not going to trade him for a 2019 pick. So if he's going to be traded, it'll be before this year's draft. What's going to happen in terms of when they start their off-season workouts? Is he going to be there? And yes, it's voluntary. They can't hold it against him if he's not. But what's the communication like between him and the coaching staff, between him and the organization? What does that lead them to believe about how all-in he plans to be throughout this offseason? And that could have an effect. Adam Schefter reporting last week that they're asking for 2 first-round picks. Why wouldn't they be at this point? But if the relationship sours further in the next couple of weeks, it's entirely possible that those demands drop and that they decide there's an addition by subtraction situation. I don't think they're there yet, but I think it could get there.
It's not an overreaction, in my opinion, because I don't see a team coming, just as you mentioned, to give 2 first-round picks for a situation, by the way. It's not like you're getting those guys like you get in the draft for 5 years at a very cheap price. You're then going to have to turn around with no leverage at all because you've just given up 2 first-round picks and throw him a mega contract. So it doesn't behoove the Giants to really lessen their price, and it doesn't behoove a team to come in and give that steep of a bounty. So I just think that ultimately, from a business perspective, he'll be on the team. Whether he's on the team in 2019, that's a whole different debate.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an overreaction. That they got to do everything they can to try and keep this kid on their team, on their roster. I say pay him. I say give him that contract. I know he's playing hardball and saying that I'm not going to step a foot on a field until I get a contract. Well, new head coach, new GM. Show now you can appease the best player on your roster. Right? That you can go in there and make a relationship. Go ahead, Dan.
New offense. They want him there as much as possible to learn it, right? They want to see him run on that ankle. That ankle injury cost him all his games last year. They want to see how that's going. So if he shows up in the next couple of weeks for this voluntary work and he shows them how he's running, that could be a big step in terms of repairing that relationship.
Well, let me amend this statement then, since there's agreement here that he'll be on the roster. But it takes 2 to tango. So what if I amend that statement to say he will be on the field Week 1? Because that has something to do with his own volition as well, not just the team's.
Yeah, that's an overreaction for me. I mean, because it's possible actually that he will not be on the field. I mean, based on his demands, based on, is Gettleman hard-headed? I mean, does he want to try and play hardball with him?
He has a history of playing hardball.
Absolutely. He could possibly be serious about what he's saying, and he's not playing Week 1.
You bring up a key point here, Dave Gettleman. Let's not forget this is the same guy who rescinded the franchise tag on Josh Norman and let him walk as a free agent. Now, he has said that he learned from that and recognizes that you have to sometimes figure out a way to get that talent on the field. We'll find out whether he learned from it, but I certainly don't think it's an overreaction. The ball at that point will be in Beckham's hand.
Well, and there's other examples besides Josh Norman, too. I mean, there's a history there if you're reading the tea leaves with Gettleman. Yes,
and they just hired him. It's not like Dave Gettleman's been there for years. You don't hire Dave Gettleman knowing that Odell Beckham's contract situation is unsettled with the idea that, oh, this is now going to be super smooth. You hire Dave Gettleman because you know you need a tough guy across the table.
Right,
Fans remember actually how poorly Eli was treated last year by the previous organization, and now to see this happening now with one of their favorites currently, I mean, they want Odell Beckham on the field in New York.
He's a generational player.
He wants to be there, too. Come on, New York.
He wants to be there.
Like he's going to Cleveland.
The fans love him. His teammates love him. Honestly,
he played well in Cleveland.
He played excellent there, but
we throw this sort of off-the-field umbrella over guys, and it's very important to remember, and I've said this before at this table, about Odell Beckham. He shows up on time. He works hard in practice. He contributes in the meetings. He's in the building. He causes them no problems. They don't love the way he conducts himself in the offseason and that everything's on Snapchat or whatever it is. And they don't love that he loses his temper and costs them 15 yards in the middle of games. Those are things they need him to get under control, and if he shows that he can, I think they'll be more willing to pay.
Well, but that emotion, too, is a double-edged sword. In part, is what allows him at times to play so...
Sure, but, I mean, you still have to
yeah, you got to
play
keep
by
it
the
in
rules.
check. Yeah, typically.
Yeah, ideally.
All right. Listen, how about this for overreaction? The Giants will draft a quarterback with the number 2 pick in the draft. We've talked about this, and we'll continue up until April 26th. But is that an overreaction, Teddy, to say they'll take a QB?
Yeah, that's an overreaction.
Why did I start with
This
Teddy?
is an overreaction.
What did I say?
quarterback. He thinks it's an overreaction to even have a quarterback.
Right, exactly.
You got a quarterback, and Eli Manning not only thinks he can still do it, all right? Listen.
That one.
I missed that one, by the way.
You missed one.
Who needs a quarterback?
Yeah, overrated.
They're going to try to accumulate players. I think it's a good possibility that they're the spot that maybe a Buffalo or someone moves up to, and they get to accumulate some picks.
Yeah, I think you accumulate, and whether you're accumulating picks or players, if you do have that quarterback there and you're a new regime, I think you go out and you get a player who can contribute with Eli Manning as opposed to trying to build for the future beyond him. And when you do look at the players that are there, whether it's Chubb or Barkley, I mean, there's 2 really talented players. I understand that the quarterbacks in this draft are very good, but if you have the luxury of having a quarterback, that's when you can look at that pick and say, man, I can get a really good player if you trade it.
JPP, right? JPP's gone.
Yeah.
Their quarterback's 37 years old.
Sure.
At some point in the next
You
couple
do have
of
to plan
years,
eventually.
you're going to need one, right? And I think it's not an overreaction. I think it's very possible that they do take a quarterback there, even if they trade back a couple spots and do it, because you don't know when you're going to be up here again. And ideally, if you're the Giants, you're not picking number 2 again anytime soon. And you may not have the quarterback class to choose from that you have this year. So if you wait a year or 2 because you have Eli Manning for another couple of years, you might not be in position to find your franchise guy. So the reason I say not an overreaction is if the Giants have a guy, a quarterback in this draft that they really believe is the long-term franchise.
That's the question.
Yes, that's the if. If that's the case, then I think they could end up taking.
Sure.
If Sam Darnold is their guy, and Cleveland takes Josh Allen, then maybe the Giants sit put at number 2 and take Darnold. So I think it's entirely possible.
It's an interesting spot to be in because it's such as luxury is the wrong word to pick it too, but you don't want that luxury again anytime soon because that means things haven't gone so well.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Eli Manning mentality could handle that. I'm the quarterback, and they draft someone
Surely
at number
at this
2,
point,
and now I am sitting here biding my time, waiting for him to have his.
Probably
At
to the
37
Giants.
though with his career, you think that'd still be an issue?
These quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
That room.
They're fragile. These
could be.
They are. They're fragile.
I'll say this: the conversations I've had with people around that situation, I've been led to believe that Eli would be okay with this idea.
Okay.
Doesn't everybody have to be at some point?
Right. I mean, he remembers what Kurt Warner did for him, and not that it's an equivalent situation, but I think that in his mind, he sees himself as maybe a guy that could make that kind of contribution long term, helping groom a guy. I don't think he's in a hurry to leave, but if you're telling him, here's a guy that's going to sit for an entire year and then we'll see what happens, I don't think he'd be completely
So
opposed.
we know, or we expect, barring anything unforeseen, that Eli Manning will start week 1. I mean, they've been committed. They've been pretty clear on that. Does he start week 16?
I don't know, last time they benched him, everybody got fired, so...
Well, I'm not suggesting bench him. There are any number of reasons he may not play throughout
Better think long and hard before you do
We'll have
that.
to see who they draft.
That wasn't a smart move, I think, in hindsight.
It didn't work out so great.
It didn't. Does he play all 16?
I would say yes, based on if they get a quarterback at the number 2 position, okay? And then you've seen the statements by teams in the past saying this quarterback is going to sit the entire year.
That's different with Eli, no?
I would think they would hold their word to Eli this time.
Yeah, because this isn't.
Yeah, this time. This time. He got
Learn their lessons.
This isn't Chad Henne and Blake Bortles or Carson Wentz and Sam Bradford. We're talking about Eli Manning.
This is Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame potentially, 2-time Super Bowl champion. You make
Who
sure
would ever bench Eli Manning?
Whatever his exit is, you make sure it's handled
the answer to that trivia question we now know. Who would ever bench Eli Manning again? I don't know if I know that answer. Not anytime soon, anyway. Not right this minute. Coming up, we do know who it was. Our deep dive into new head coaches continues with a trip to the AFC South.
Braves.
Right? Mike Vrabel do enough to dethrone the Jags. We'll tell you
Got that gray beard.
What Teddy thinks.
Film Room is brought to you by Verizon, the most awarded network ever.